Hey, this is Dr. J, and this is God's Word, no cap. Listen, one of my latest storm shelter experiences, because I live in the Southeast, and we're prone to tornadic weather around these parts. Well, many times I'll watch the weather, and a lot of times I'm not really impressed. I've been here long enough to pay attention to the meteorologists and what they're talking about, and as it relates to the elements that are needed, the dynamics that are needed for a storm, a threatening storm to develop. So if it's just a little thunder, a little rain, a little lightning here and there, I'm okay. But this particular time, I was really paying attention because of the type of dynamics that were developing over time. And I decided that I was going to go to the storm shelter. And so when I got to the storm shelter, there were just a few people there. In fact, when I walked up to the door, I had to ask to find out, are you guys open? Because there were just a few cars in the parking lot. I wanted to be sure. Now, remember, a storm system was approaching. And so I sat there, I put my AirPods in, I got my computer open, I'm doing some work, I'm looking at some things. And as we're sitting there, myself and the few people, as time goes by, the weather starts to deteriorate. And as the weather starts to get worse, suddenly, a lot of people got the same message. Hey, we got to go to the storm shelter. And in just a few minutes, that place filled up with families, children, people coming in with blankets and food and electronics. And they were coming because they recognized that where they would not be as safe, would not protect them as much as where they decided to come to, the storm shelter. It was the safe place to ride out the storm. We all felt safe in the storm shelter. And so we were sitting, people were laughing, watching their electronics, walking around, talking, eating, and playing while the storm raged around us. Listen, this reminds me of another story about Jesus and his disciples in the storm. And this particular story is found in Matthew 14, verses 24 to 27, and just a little excerpt. But the boat by this time was already a long distance from land. Jesus had told the disciples to go on ahead of him and get in the boat and cross to the other side. And so that's where we are in the story. It was already a long distance from land, tossed and battered by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, that's from 3 to 6 a.m., Jesus came to them walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost." And they cried out in fear. But immediately he spoke to them saying, "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid." You know, during this storm, Jesus identified himself and he told his disciples to have courage. And in the original language, the phrase "take courage" just meant be bold from the inside out. Live out this boldness from an unflinching place, an unmovable place. Jesus told them to do this while in a storm when they otherwise should have been afraid, when they otherwise should have panicked. He told them that they could do this. Why? Because he was with them, the one who controls all, who's in control of any storm. Jesus also tells us to live boldly from the inside, to live boldly in an unflinching way, because he is the one who gives us the power to do so. He is with us. And guess what? There's more. There's greater. There's deeper. There's wider when God is on our side. He is our safe place in our life storms. We can go to him with our challenges, our fears, knowing that he can and that he will take care of us. So when life storms threaten to kick up, I challenge you to begin to look for where Jesus is, because he is certainly there and he will certainly empower you to take courage. He will certainly empower you to live with unflinching boldness from the inside.